I want to tell you the story of Mr. Toothpaste. It seems like the caterpillars take on a completely different hue depending on what type of leaves they eat. If we find a grub on a pepper plant munching on pepper leaves versus a tomato plant eating tomato leaves, they seem to take on a completely different shade of green, which is kind of neat. One of the first grubs that we found this year was on one of Mark's pepper plants that I had recently transplanted into the greenhouse in those nice big planter boxes that Mark constructed last month. Somehow they flew under our radar for a little bit and they were able to get kind of large, and after they get to a certain point in their baby lifespan, they will only eat that type of plant until they pupate. So there is no, switcherooing them to tomato leaves after that. This grub, this first big grub that Mark found, they had this beautiful blue-green color that had a very distinct lumosity to it. Kind of like a succulent, like the kind of semi-transparent subsurface scattering where like the light kind of absorbs and diffuses in a very kind of soft, frosty way. Like a glowing, bluish, pasty color. So after poking around a little bit, I found somebody on Reddit that suggested the caterpillar blood, the hemolymph, is actually a turquoise color, not black. And the reason why certain caterpillars appear to be more blue rather than green is that they aren't getting the green pigmentation from their diet to cause them to be more of an apple green or a neon green color. I'm guessing from like the chlorophyll. Pepper leaves have chlorophyll in them, so I would assume that they would also provide like the green color. So that doesn't really make sense. I don't know. I'll keep looking around. Normally they reach a certain thickness or girth before they pupate, and it's something I've gotten kind of familiar with. Like once grubs reach a certain size, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're gonna go down in the deeps pretty soon. I need to, prepare them for that. Once Mr. Toothpaste reached this point, he continued eating for another 4 days. All day Thursday, all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and only just this morning, Monday, were they pacing around, ready to go down into the dirt to pupate. On the whole, if I had to make a guess, Mr. Toothpaste was like 20 to 30% larger at that point in their cycle than most caterpillars get, which is a lot. His feet kept shrinking because at some point their feet stop growing, but the girth keeps increasing as they eat. And their feet just appear to get smaller and smaller and smaller until they just look like these tiny little points. So Mr. Toothpaste had these delicate little finger points coming out of their squishy flesh. And then their head kind of gets tucked in, kind of like their neck skin becomes a fold like a turtleneck or foreskin. And you just see this little circle, like a little button poking out, and that's actually their face. And then at the bottom they have their little teeth, their little mouth slit that they use to chomp leaves with their mandibles. Hornworms will bury themselves for a month before they become moths, and right before they're about to want to do this, they reach a certain size that's roughly the same, something that I've observed over and over again. They get what we call the black blood. You can see their hemolymph, which is basically caterpillar blood. You can see it pump back and forth, pulsing along their dorsal. If you look directly down at their back, you can see the blood racing, kind of pumping back and forth throughout their body. They lose interest in food, and one morning you'll wake up and you'll find that the caterpillar is just pacing the enclosure. We call it wandering. When we wake up and find a wandering caterpillar, I move them very lovingly into the pupation zone. Last night, I went through the steps of preparing the pupation station. I allow them to pupate in our grow room in a climate-controlled area to just alleviate some of the stress of the blistering heat of the Mojave Desert. There are a couple troughs that I fill up with soil, clean soil. I keep moist and cool when they're ready to go down in the deeps, as we say. It takes about a month. They will emerge as a moth, at which point I release them into the night to live the next phase of their life. The pupa phase is interesting because they become chrysali, and their whole bodies more or less become liquid, and then slowly over the course of the month they reconstitute, and pretty much nothing about them remains the same from when they were caterpillars. So they're physically entirely transformed. They're new. They're something completely new. And I always kind of wondered, or I still wonder, whether or not they have any recollection of being in their baby form. Their baby caterpillar bodies in any way. The entire time that I take care of them, while feeding them and moving them from vessel to vessel as they grow, and then placing them in the pupation station for them to go down in the dirt, that whole time, like, they never see me because they can't see. Like, I think that caterpillars only have the ability to feel hunger and seek out food. They don't know that they're being fed. They don't know that they're being protected or cared for. They don't really have any sense of me at all, which makes my role in their life all that much more interesting to reflect on. Other than being aware of when I'm, holding them or touching them, they have no idea that I exist.